our marriage and our challenges really, and any and how we find it really, and how we sustain it and maintain it. So the first question we have is, how did we become Christians? So I sort of began. My journey was very, very different to Tim's. I became from a Christian from a Muslim. I was very into my faith. I used to pray. I was very little. I used to read the Arabic, everything. And then as I grew up, I sort of felt I disconnected is I think the word, and I was going to mosque and I was just doing all the rituals or the zakat, the fasting, but I was really not sort of feeling a sense of connection. And then a series of events happened in my life where I got married to a very abusive man, and that led me very, very far astray, and my community sort of felt, left me really in that circumstance, and so I felt betrayed, and I really disconnected with the Islam religion, and then through a sort of a real process and a journey, I began to. I just found a cross one day hanging in a shop, and I bought it whilst on holiday. And then the other thing I did was I just downloaded the Bible on one day on my way into work, and I was feeling really comforted by it. And I just, through other things happening again, I moved in with a landlord who was Christian, and he just really sort of helped me to understand the difference between what I'd believed in about Jesus and what was actually real. And then I just felt the Holy Spirit's presence one day when I was in church, and that sort of began my journey into becoming a follower of Jesus. So over to you, Tim.
Yeah, so I came from a non-Christian background, and I used to hang around a little gang as the five of us when we were in our teenage years, and then we used to hang outside a church sort of Friday club. It was called Friday Club, interestingly, and hang outside and just make mischief and all that sort of stuff. And the people who used to run the church club would say, what do you do? And we'd say we play music, and they said, well, do you want to come play for the Friday Club group? And we said, yeah, okay. And they said, what's the name of your band? One of the bands that we're going to play. And we went, St. Lucifer. And I think it's a great credit to the church. They weren't scared at all about us. They realised who we were, realised we were just young lads trying to find our way. We played the church, and it was just horrifically loud. And we got more involved in it, and then I eventually ended up at a church camp in this meeting, and they invited us to take communion. And having been essentially an atheist, took communion and became a Christian, gave my life to Jesus. So it was fairly sudden in that respect. A very quick transformation from being somebody who didn't believe to somebody who did.
So what's the secret to a good marriage?
I honestly wish I knew. We are not particularly great examples of marriage, even though we try our best. We do argue a lot. We argue about the silliest things, and I think a lot of couples do this. I think that one thing that sticks in my mind is that I have said a vow which says till death us do part, but also I think that, and we don't do this enough, we don't cherish each other enough, and I think it's important that you do that you try to look out for the other person, and as I said, we're not fantastic examples of marriage, and I wouldn't want to present ourselves as that, but we are committed to each other. And I think that's important. You make a strong decision that that's where you're going to be. And there's been tough times. And also I think that you have to really make sure that you do take time out, and you don't take time out away from the children. A lot of couples, what they do is they almost put their children first, and I don't think that's particularly right. I think if you put your wife or your husband first in the marriage rather than children, because a lot of times people create gods out of their children and all that sort of stuff, and I think that if you put your spouse first rather than your children, then it all follows after that, because the children can see that there's a loving couple. That's my view, and it could be wrong.
So for me, the secret to our marriage has been just putting effort, I guess. It is about putting the effort in. It's not always easy because our children, we've got 2 children, are always vying for our attention, and so it is difficult. The other thing we have is that we got married late in our lives. So we got married, and I was about 37, and Tim was 45. So we're really old now. We're practically at we have a laugh and a joke that we'll be in granny status and with hobbling sticks whilst our teenage children will be running our house for us, asking us when their cup of tea is made. But yeah, we are what we call older parents. But yeah, I think the key has been to ensure we separate at least a little bit. We used to have regular date nights, but now it's sort of a little bit difficult with the fact that we eat with the children and we don't want to eat too late because of health issues. So we try and have at least once a month of a date, and we try and make sure that we have a Friday lunch date. I think that's a way of changing our lunch date so that we do spend time together alone. And having special days out is really useful. Okay, so, and how do we maintain a good marriage?
I think you still have to have a bit of passion in your marriage, and I think you kind of know where I'm going with that. There has to be that, and I also think that you have to. Sometimes, I feel like I have to look at Ray and go, that's my, without being too sort of twee about the whole, that's my hot wife, and you have to, and that's where I am. I mean, I think Ray probably looks at me and she feels slightly sick, but I think for me, I'm still passionate about my wife. I still find my wife attractive. You can't really manufacture that, but then sometimes you kind of have to. You have to put on your best bib and tucker. You have to get your hair cut. You have to, you have to go out. You have to. It's not you have to. We go out, and actually, when we go out and sit down and have a chat, make sure you're listening to. I mean, I think when we first started going out on date night, I used to talk at Ray rather than listen, and but now I've learned to try and listen to what she's got to say, and what's going on in her life, and actually find out what's going on and what floats her boat. I know what floats her boat most of the time. She likes doing this sort of thing. She likes doing exercise. She goes running. I know what Ray does, but I have to find out a little bit more about what drives that and why she's interested in it, and ask her questions about it and be interested in her about what she's doing, rather than just going, oh yeah, I know about it and that's that. So you have to maintain an interest in what she's doing, and also and how you feel about that, and encouraging. And I'm not always the most encouraging person. I'm a bit like, I've got my head down, I've got work, I've got loads of other things to think about, and those things can go on the back burner. But once you actually sit down with someone, have a chat with them, find out what they're about, get to know them again, because what happens with couples all the time is they end up going out for dinner and they end up talking about their children for a little while, and that's fine. But I think that you actually really want to talk about each other and what their passions are, what their dreams are, what their aspirations are, what their concerns are, what their worries are, and all those types of things. And if you can communicate on that level, then I think you're on the first step. And secondly, as I said, I think it's important you have a bit of good old fashioned passion, a bit of it's not like you want to behave in that sort of fashion all the time, but you want to make sure that you've got a lot of, you're attracted to your wife, and you hold her up, and and I still say to Ray, I've got my hot wife, and I think that's important. I still think she's hot. I still want to give her a kiss and a cuddle, and I'm not bored of her either. So you can't be bored with Ray, to be fair, because you just can't.
So for me, it's like, it is obviously about that. But I remember when we first went on our marriage preparation course, and Tim talked at me, and I thought, oh, this is going to be an issue because I do like chatting too. And then sort of over the years, I sort of helped him to understand that actually listening is actually better, and it does help me as a woman rather than kind of talking at me. And so that sort of helped. I think you're right. It's important, as soon as we had children, it was important to get back into the rhythm of having, sex, because it is something that is godly, and God's blessed us with that opportunity. And it was difficult for me coming from an abusive childhood and stuff like that, that, you know, to sort of shift my mindset to thinking that actually sex is a good thing. But, you know, yeah, it is all of that. But I think the other thing that I was really looking for in a marriage was a godly man, a man who loved Jesus and put him first. And so that's what Tim is. He's a worshipper by nature. And so that was really important. And I think, you know, sort of we come at it in different ways. I guess we complement each other because, you know, one of the things that I like to do is pray together, develop a godly marriage, sort of, you know, really think about how can we kind of bring Jesus into it. And I think that is the secret. If it wasn't for Jesus, I think we would have really struggled. I think it's the fact that Jesus kind of unites us together, even if, and you know, we're the classic couple that will have a row and probably go to sleep with a row, but you know, in the end we do make up. I know that they say that you should never, you know, let the sun shine out without having made peace, but actually we completely defy that. We have had many rows, and we've had lots of blown up rows, and but you know, I think what Jesus is always doing is he's continuing to weave us back together, and that is the secret really to our marriage.
I think that, yeah, I think it has to be a God-centered marriage, and we could say, oh, the reason why we're still together is because, you know, we're a Christian couple, and we do have someone else to talk to when things are getting tough, i.e., Jesus, and that can, when you've had conflict, you know, sometimes there's nowhere to turn, and that's a good place to turn. I think that with this, you know, I think it's Desmond Tutu said that, you know, somebody sort of said to Desmond Tutu, I think it's Archbishop Desmond Tutu, he said, the church is full of hypocrites, and Desmond Tutu said, oh, I don't think so, I think there's room for many more. And I think with a lot of marriages, we like to present, or these types of videos, like to present something that's really, you know, everything's all wonderful. And for us, it isn't always wonderful, but sometimes and a lot of the time it is, and it has to be an adventure as well. You have to see it in that way. You know, we've got God at the heart of it. We try to lift each other up. We do pray together, and we try to have God at the centre of our relationship, and that bonds us, I think. But also, we don't paper over the cracks, and I think that's really important, because as soon as you start saying, "Oh, everything's all right," when it really isn't, and you stop communicating, you know, we do have conflict. But the thing is, after that, we do actually talk about it, and we do actually communicate, and it can be hurtful, but you're always trying to build on those things and trying to find new ways to communicate and to understand each other. And I've probably learned about 1% of what Ray's about, and there's a new thing every day that I'm learning about. And I said to her the other day, and I don't know whether she feels the same, but I'm more attracted to Ray now, 10, 11 years on, than I was when she was younger, and you know, she'd go, "Oh, I was prettier then." And all that sort of stuff. No, I think Ray's much more enchanting and frustrating and invigorating and all those things now, and I find her curious and mysterious, but also wonderful, and if you can find those places with your spouse, and you can regard them with that attitude or that posture, then your marriage is good. And you don't have to manufacture it. You might just turn back and go, "Oh, actually, I think she's great," and then you find yourself answering your own question about why your wife is incredible, why you're attracted to her, why you're married to her, why she's got all these things, why she's your wife, and why you've chosen her. It's not like she's not like my family, who I didn't get to choose. I actually chose Ray, so she has a sort of like an exalted place in my life because of that. In the same way that you're choosing to become a Christian, and you make a decision to follow Christ.